Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmerced.com, and I wanted to film a quick video basically that gets at that you are a libertarian and you want to run for office and what kind of advice I can impart. As a two-time ex-candidate, in 2016 I ran for US Senate against Chuck Schumer, and in 2013 I ran for New York City Public Advocate, which was the current mayor, Bill de Blasio's old job, and I was running against the current public advocate of Letitia James. So, and in both of those campaigns, I learned a lot of stuff about far as what I think people should do in planning a campaign so they can be successful, and things that worked, things that didn't work, etc. So before you even run for office, there's a lot of things that you want to ask yourself. One, are you willing to dedicate at least 20 hours a week? And I say 20 hours a week, I mean a local election. I'm talking about city council, mayor, maybe state legislature. But for anything higher, if you're talking about federal office, you want to run for Congress, you want to run for US Senate, you're really talking about 40 plus hours. So then in that case, you have to really start thinking, can I not work for a little while? Or can I deal with a lower income? Because that's what it's going to take. Okay, nothing can replace time with the candidate. Nothing's going to come across to people as talking to the candidate. So your time is super precious and super necessary. Okay, so first you need to decide, are you going to put in that time? Because if you're not going to put in that time, then you're probably not going to win. Doesn't mean you shouldn't still run. So political parties still need to have candidates to run full slate for office, which does make a difference, because if people can vote for the same party down every item on the ballot, it's going to be easier for them to build a habit of voting for that party. But if you want to win, it's going to take time. Also, you're going to have to ask yourself what you need to do to get on the ballot. In some states and in some localities, getting on the ballot is going to be easier than others. But be prepared to collect petition signatures, which means you're going to get a clipboard, you're going to spend hours upon hours going out there meeting people, which you should be doing anyways, and getting their signatures. But just be ready and learn what that is ahead of time, so that way you make sure you hit the proper deadlines, you know how many signatures you need to collect, and if there's any special methods of collecting them. Sometimes they'll say you have to collect so many from different areas, or certain people can collect them, all these different details. So just make sure you know what it takes to be on the ballot. Because last thing you want to do is put forward a large effort and then tell everybody you're not on the ballot for whatever reason. It happens quite often, so just something to think about. What does your family think? Because running for office is going to take a lot of your time, and even in the time where you're home, you're not going to be home. You're going to be thinking about your campaign, what you need to do, and several other factors. So can you basically make sure that your family understands the commitment you're about to get into, and that they're going to be okay with this sort of temporary detachment from family life? So have that conversation, because the last thing you want to do is just do it, and then everyone's upset with you after the fact. So something to think about. Also, do you have people you can trust who can help you? Because you can get into a lot of trouble if things are not done right. If you're not following the right paperwork, not collecting too many funds from the certain people because there's financing limits. So you're going to need, and the thing is that as a candidate, you need to be going out meeting people. So you can't be doing everything if you want to win. So you need to have people you can trust who can do these things for you. Do those people exist? Are they on board? So if you take that step forward, they're going to come in and jump in. Ask them ahead of time. Don't wait till you're already in the race to have your team set and ready. Now, a couple of key positions you want in a campaign staff, and this isn't everything, but these are sort of the key figures, and you want to make sure you have people who can fill these roles. Is a campaign manager. A campaign manager is essentially going to be the CEO of your campaign. You should not be the person who's figuring everything out, as far as what the campaign strategy is and how they respond to different things. That should be your campaign manager, who's figuring out how to basically make sure that everybody else is doing their job, that your schedule is filled, that you're spending your time doing the right things, so that way you can just focus on getting in front of people and connecting with them and what your message is, etc. So that campaign manager is going to be very important. Okay? And when it comes to paying people, they're the most important person to pay. Now, a treasurer is basically, again, there's a lot of financing rules. So you need to make sure you have somebody who can, one, keep track of what bank accounts you have, what donations have come in, make sure that they comply with all the financing rules, that any reports that need to be submitted are submitted on time. Someone who just really focuses on that and just make sure that all is done perfectly. That is where you can run into the most trouble as far as, again, fees, fines, etc. A volunteer coordinator. There's going to be there's going to be a lot of people, if things go well, who are going to want to help and will be willing to donate their time to help your campaign. And you'll run into the problem of trying to figure out, you have people who want to help, but the question is, how? So you want someone who kind of keeps an eye on them, because people just saying they volunteer and then you just tell them to go do something, it doesn't quite work. You really want someone who's going to kind of know who are the volunteers, assign them particular tasks, and then follow up with them to make sure they've accomplished these tasks. So that way you're getting the most value from your volunteers. Because just assigning tasks or putting up a list of tasks saying, okay, hey, if you're interested in helping out the campaign, do these things, and no one's really kind of holding up or recognizing them or acknowledging that they're doing this work, they'll lose their steam pretty quickly. A social media coordinator. Now, in my previous campaigns, since this is sort of one of my expertise, I generally handled this for my own campaigns. But if you can, you'd like to have some interns or even a staff member who really sets up all the social media, manages what communications go on the social media. They kind of coordinate with the communications coordinator and gets that out there on Twitter, Facebook, etc. And the communications coordinator is basically your PR person. They're the one who's going to go out there and build relationships with the media, send out press releases, type up fundraising emails with the campaign manager, and kind of be the one who makes sure that the words that are coming out are good. Okay, and make sure that you look good to the media. And then you can have surrogates. These are just, whenever you hear the term surrogates, it really just means people within your community, the community that you're running for. So again, city council, who in the city who supports you is respected, well known, and people trust. Because then you want to coordinate them getting out there, speaking out on your behalf, because they're going to have a huger weight in getting people to change their vote at the end of the day. So you want to develop surrogates. So basically, you're not necessarily going to have surrogates in the beginning. So you want to identify people who would be great surrogates, people in the community who everybody kind of knows, or people recognize, or have the ear of a lot of people. And those are sort of the people you really want to go out there and win them over first. Because once they become your surrogate, they go out there and then they have a wide net that they can cast. Now, things you should be doing, even if you're not running for office now, things you should be doing if you're even contemplating the idea of running for office, is starting a Facebook page and a Twitter account. That's sort of your politics Facebook page and Twitter account. And if you're targeting a particular area, so you're running for a particular town, then tweet stuff about that town, post articles about the news in that local community, and buy Facebook ads to boost those posts. Because if people in the local community see news about their local town, they're going to more likely like it and more likely start following your page because you're sharing stuff that's relevant to them. Now, if you're running as a libertarian like I did, then it doesn't hurt to splice in there like videos from learnliberty.org or articles from the Foundation of Economics Education that you may find very interesting. One, it'll also bring other libertarians to your page and also start introducing some of the way you think to the local community. But mainly local stuff, because again, at the end of the day, people are voting for you based on your thought on local issues. So if you're running for local office, talking about the IRS, you're probably not going to win and your message is not going to cut across. So you really need to know what those local issues are. But the cool thing is, once people like those posts that you share, especially on Facebook, you can go back and then invite the people who like your posts and start building up the likes of your Facebook page with people who are your potential voters, and have them in place. And on that note, you want to make sure you've done research on previous elections for the particular office that you have and find out how many votes were actually cast in those previous elections. So that way you have an idea of what you win. So if you know that 10,000 people voted in the previous election for that office, and that it took, so that means 5,000 votes to win, then your job should be to literally get 5,000 people on a mailing list who will support you. Okay, usually there's a lot more people who are eligible to vote than actually vote. So it's just it's just you gotta manage identifying those people, getting them on the list so that way you can mobilize them on election day and then keep them interested in the race. So those local elections are very winnable by by basically third parties or whatnot, because you're talking about a lot smaller number of people you got to convince. It's just a matter of getting out there and really trying to communicate on the things that they care about. So you should spend a lot more time listening and a lot less time talking. So instead of saying why you should be the person they vote for, talk to them. Ask them, what do you think about my opponent? Like, what do you think about this person I might be running against? What you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see more of. What are your concerns about the community? Get an idea of what people care about first. Okay? That way, when you talk to them, you know what they care about, and you know which buttons to push and which buttons not to push. Because I've seen too many candidates that just rush in there, they give their pitch, but they don't know their audience because they don't bother to talk to their audience. It's one-sided communication, and it doesn't accomplish anything. And you want to be visible. Especially in local elections, people are not necessarily voting for who they're most ideologically in line with. They're electing who they think is part of their community. Who do they trust? Who do they like? So if you are not involved in community events, if they don't see you through and about town, then you're just that person who's running for office for political ambition, and they're not going to vote for you. So get involved, and at the same time, getting involved and getting to know the people who are going to vote for you is going to make this more personal. You're going to these issues become real, their concerns become real, the office becomes real, and you'll be able to campaign more passionately, which is what you want, because you want to be someone that connects with them genuinely. You want to be someone that genuinely cares about the community. But again, this is the first step. So if you do care about federal issues, you kind of have to go through this to demonstrate that you can speak about those larger issues, that you can earn the ability to run on that larger scale, because you might be, it's much easier to convince people to donate funds for a local community city council race, but when it comes to donating for a federal office, Congress, Senate, it's a lot more of a risk to donate money to you. So if you have nothing to kind of demonstrate that there's some credibility to donate funds, then when you run for a higher office, you're going to have a harder time raising money. So that's why the smaller offices are key, especially if you're running for a third party. The third party is already a knock against your credibility because people just expect that only the two major parties can win. So that's why the local races are really where you have to build your credibility, which means you have to work twice as hard to connect with people. Because most people are automatically going to vote Republican, automatically going to vote Democrat out of habit. So if you need to convince 5,000 people to vote for you, you need to convince them to vote for you. And the way you do that is you go out there and you shake their hand, you listen to them, you get to know them, and you ask them to put their faith in you. So you got to get out there and do that. So get involved in the community, ask people questions, listen, and make sure you're building up that social media presence, which is Facebook, Twitter account, so that way they like you, and then you have a way to broadcast messages. Also collect emails and build an email list. Now, MailChimp.com is free for up to 2,000 email. So once you collect 2,000 email addresses, so if you're in a really small town and 2,000 is enough to win, then that's a free option. There's no downside. Once you go over 2,000, you do have to pay for the service. So if you're raising money, then great. It's not expensive. You're talking about like $50 a month until you're really hitting really huge numbers. And they offer you a lot of features. If you just want something that's going to be free, no matter how big the list gets, there's tinyletter.com. You can still import all the emails of people's emails you've collected, send them emails. It just lacks some of the finer features as far as statistics and stuff like that you'd have with a more robust solution like MailChimp.com. Now, there's a lot of resources that are out there to help you out. So here's a couple companies that you can contact whether you're, especially if you're running as a Libertarian Party candidate, to help you out. So there's Evolt Consulting. Evolt Consulting, they helped out the Austin Peterson for President campaign. They helped out my campaign for U.S. Senate last year. Large part what they do is general consulting, so giving you general advice. So a lot of things that I learned as far as being a good candidate were things that I learned from Jeff and Justin, who run Evolt Consulting. From their experiences, they manage the compliance and helping you make sure that all those financial reports get on time. So they're really helpful, especially if you're not someone who's a super experienced candidate and don't necessarily have access to major party resources and advisors and stuff like that. They have a lot of knowledge that they have from experience that they've had with all sorts of different campaigns and whatnot that can be really useful. Merleva LLC is actually my company. Again, I specialize mainly in like social media marketing, online marketing, online media. So if you want just someone to come either handle your social media for your campaign or teach your team how to handle social media effectively, you can bring me in and bring me in affordably, actually. Then there's the Neostage Group, which is the company from famous Libertarian Larry Sharp. Okay, they can do all sorts of different types of leadership training and whatnot that could be very useful. Not bad people to reach out to. Libertarian Leadership Institute, actually probably the first organization you should really look into when running for office as a Libertarian Party candidate. The Libertarian Leadership Training is a great sort of candidate boot camp that teach you sort of, one, how to be a better messenger, what are the basic campaign strategies that you need to employ, how to think about campaigning, the kind of effort you need to put into campaigning, so that way you can win. And they kind of give you examples of Libertarian candidates who've done well, who've won. And again, this is all at the local level. At the end of the day, you build up. So those city council wins will build, state legislature wins, which will build federal office wins, which will build up to the presidency. You can't really skip steps, so you got to build up. And the Libertarian Leadership Institute will give you lots of tools, a lot of knowledge to really do that effectively. There's a lot of other great resources out there for candidates, but this is a good place to start. And hopefully you found this useful. Now, at the same time, again, when you're thinking about messaging, you want to make sure that you say the things that you want to say as far as your own underlying ideological principles and whatnot, but make sure to never, ever lose focus with the day-to-day lives of people. Because at the end of the day, people care about who they trust, who they like, and they care about their day-to-day lives and how things are going to affect their day-to-day lives. So it doesn't matter how you can be ideological, you can be optimistic, you can be pie in the sky, but you got to connect it to people's day-to-day lives. If people don't see what you're saying, how it connects to their life, then it doesn't matter. So if you don't lose sight of that, and again, you listen, you'll be fine. So my name's Alex Merced from alexmerced.com. Okay, have a great day and enjoy.